Welcome back everyone, it is Mike from ManaHoarders, bringing you a very special episode of Let Them Fight, featuring the new Commander Precons from Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle Earth. Now a quick note, these are not the real cards themselves as they do not drop until June 23rd, but these are proxies of the exact deck lists you can expect to find if you purchase this product when it drops later in June. Now without further delay, we have Dustin commanding the armies of Man, with Éowyn Shield Maiden as his commander. Damien is representing the Hobbits of the Shire, with Frodo Adventurous Hobbit and Sam Loyal Attendant as his commanders. Carlos is commanding the Elven Council, with Galadriel Elven Queen at the helm. And beyond the black gates of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Doom where the One Ring itself was once forged, I am commanding Sauron, Lord of the Rings. I have been so excited since I heard about this set being spoiled a little over a year ago, so without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Let Them Fight! And so the game begins, with Damien winning the die roll. Carlos plays an Exotic Orchard as his land for turn, and then taps it for a green to cast an Arbor Elf. I play a Terramorphic Expanse, and then immediately tap it and crack it to go get a Swamp before passing the turn. Dustin plays a Windbrisk Heights, hiding away a card and then passing the turn to Damien. Carlos pays 3 to cast a Farhaven Elf, searching for an island and then passing the turn. Dustin pays 2 to cast a Talisman of Progress and then passes the turn. Damien pays 3 to cast one of his commanders, Sam Loyal Attendant. He moves to combat and creates a food token and then passes the turn. Carlos pays 5 to cast a Lorien Revealed, drawing 3 cards. He moves to combat and swings at me with his Farhaven Elf. I take the 1 damage, then he passes the turn. Before his turn ends, I cast a Consider, looking at the top card of my library. I put it into my graveyard and then I draw, and then my turn begins when I untap and draw for turn. I play a Sulphurous Springs, and then I tap it and take 1 damage to generate a red mana to cast a Faithless Looting. I draw 2, I discard 2 cards, and then I pass the turn to Dustin. Dustin pays 3 to cast a Gilran Dunedain Protector, and then he passes the turn. Damien pays 3 mana to cast the Gaffer. As he moves to combat, he creates a food token from Sam, and then he passes the turn. Carlos pays 4 to cast his commander, Galadriel Elven Queen. He then pays 2 to cast a Lightning Greaves, which he equips to his commander. He moves to combat and swings Galadriel at Damien, who takes the 4 damage. I pay 4 mana to cast a Relic of Sauron, and then I pass the turn. Dustin pays 5 and casts his commander, Éowyn Shield Maiden. Moving to combat, Dustin swings at me. I take the 2 damage and he passes the turn. Damien starts his turn by paying 2 to cast his second commander, Frodo Adventurous Hobbit. Damien then pays 1 mana and taps and sacrifices one of his food tokens, gaining 3 life. Moving to combat, Damien creates a food token from Sam, who then he swings at me. I take the damage, and at his end step he draws a card from the Gaffer. Carlos pays 1 to cast an Elvish Mystic, and then he equips it with the Lightning Greaves. He then pays 3 to cast a Lothlorien Blade, and then he pays 2 to equip it to his commander. At the beginning of combat, we all vote for Guidance, which allows Carlos to draw a card from his commander. He then swings his commander at Dustin, and from the Lothlorien Blade trigger deals 4 damage, destroying Eowyn, and he swings his Farhaven Elf at me. Dustin and I both take the damage, and Carlos passes the turn. I play a Foreboding Ruins as my land for turn, revealing a swamp. I pay 4 mana to cast a Grima, Saruman's Footman, to finally get myself a blocker before passing the turn. Dustin pays 3 to cast an Heirloom Blade, which he equips to his Gelrayan for 1. He moves to combat, swinging at Carlos. Carlos takes the damage, and in his second main phase, Dustin plays a Plains and then passes the turn. Damien pays 1 to cast a Soul Ring. He then pays 2 to cast a Hithlane Rope. He then pays 1 to activate it, and then searches his library for a basic land card and passes the rope over to Dustin. He then pays 1 and sacrifices a food token to gain 3. Moving to combat, he attacks Dustin with Frodo, and since he gained 3 life before Frodo attacked, the ring is able to tempt him. Dustin takes the 1 damage, and then Damien passes the turn, drawing a card from the Gaffer at the end step. Carlos starts his turn by paying 3 to cast a Commander Sphere. Moving to combat, Carlos attacks Damien with Galadriel. He throws 4 damage from the Lothlorien Blade at Frodo, and Damien puts him back in the command zone. He then takes the 4 damage from Galadriel. In his second main phase, Carlos casts a Plea for Power. We all vote for Knowledge, so he gets to draw 3 cards. He plays an island as his land for turn, then he passes to me. Moving to combat, I swing at Carlos with my Grima. He can't be blocked, so he takes the 1 damage, and then he flips cards until he hits an instant or sorcery, which conveniently, the first card he hits is a Raise the Palisade. As a creature type, I choose Advisor, so all non-advisor creatures are returned to their owner's hands. In my second main phase, I pay 8 mana and cast my commander, Sauron, Lord of the Rings. When I cast him, I amass 5, getting a Orc token with 5/1/1 counters, and then I mill 5. I find a Saruman of the White Hand, so I put him onto the battlefield, and then I pass the turn. Dustin pays all of his mana to recast his commander before passing the turn. Damien pays 2 to cast a Feasting Hobbit, devouring one of his food tokens, giving the Hobbit 3 1/1 counters. Damien then casts a Call of Unity, and at his end step it gets 1 Unity counter. Carlos casts an Arbor Elf. He follows this up by casting an Elvish Mystic. Then he casts Galadriel. He equips her with the Lightning Greaves and the Lothlorien Blade before passing the turn. To start my turn, I cast a Voracious Hellbeast. Each of my opponents sacrifice a creature, and I create 3 food tokens. Moving to combat, I swing at Damien with Sauron and Grima. He takes the 10 damage and then flips cards from the top of his library until he hits a Dusk and Dawn. I choose not to cast it, so it is exiled and the rest of the cards go on the bottom of his library in a random order before I pass the turn. Dustin starts his turn by paying 3 to cast a Frontline Medic. He then equips it with the Heirloom Blade before passing the turn. Damien pays 5 to cast a Fell the Mighty, targeting the Elvish Mystic, so all creatures with power greater than 1 are destroyed. Dustin resolves his Heirloom Blade trigger and reveals a Bastion Protector, getting it to his hand. Damien pays 3 mana to recast the Gaffer, and then he passes the turn. Carlos recasts his commander, then equips it with the Lightning Greaves. He follows this up by casting a Farhaven Elf, and then an Elvish Mystic. We move to combat, and his Galadriel triggers, and we all once again choose guidance so he can draw. He attacks me with his commander, and I choose not to block, so I take the 4 damage. Before he passes the turn, I sacrifice my food token to gain 3 life, and then I begin my turn. I swing at Carlos with my Grima once again. He takes the 1 damage, then he flips until he reveals a Rampant Growth. I cast it for free and search for my basic land. In my second main phase, I recast my commander, once again amassing 5, milling 5, and then I choose to get Saruman of the White Hand back from my graveyard onto the battlefield. Before my turn ends, Dustin activates the Hithlane Rope, going to get a basic land card. Dustin pays 3 to cast a Bastion Protector. He then recasts his Gilrayan Dunedain Protector and equips it with the Heirloom Blade before passing his turn. Damien starts his turn by casting a Golem Obsessed Stalker. He then recasts Sam, Loyal Attendant. He moves to combat and generates a food token before passing the turn. Carlos starts things off by casting an Arcane Signet and a Model of Unity. He pays 2 to equip the Lothlorien Blade to his commander. He follows this up by casting a Hornet Queen, creating 4 1/1s with flying and death touch. He equips the Hornet Queen with the Lightning Greaves and then moves to combat. He attacks Dustin with his commander, dealing the damage to his Bastion Protector and destroying it. Dustin decides to block, so the creatures trade, and then Dustin resolves the Heirloom trigger. He flips and reveals a Baragond of the Guard, getting it to his hand. I start my turn by casting a Notion Thief. I then cast a Summons of Saruman with 5 into X. This triggers Saruman of the White Hand, so I put 7 1/1 counters on my Orc Army token. I then amass 5 from the spell itself, and then mill 5 cards, hoping to get an instant or sorcery. But I do not. Moving to combat, I swing my Orc Army token and Sauron at Dustin and Grima at Carlos. They both take the damage, and Carlos reveals an Opt off the top of his library, which I do cast, so I scry one and draw a card, but I also amass one for my Saruman of the White Hand before I pass the turn. Dustin pays 4 to cast a Taunt from the Rampart, goading all of our creatures and making it so they can't block. He then casts a Flame Rush Rider for the dash cost and equips it with the Heirloom Blade. He swings at me for 6 damage, and since I cannot block, I take it, and then he passes the turn. Damien plays his land for turn, which gains him 1 life. Damien starts his turn by casting and Assemble the Entmoot. Damien moves to combat and creates a food token, then attacks me with all of his creatures since they are goaded. I am unable to block, so I take the 8 damage. He then pays 3 mana to eat all 3 of his food tokens, gaining 9 life. Since he has gained 10 life per turn, he sacrifices his Assemble the Entmoot to create 3 10/10 Treefolk creature tokens, and I think everything is fine and dandy until we are reminded of the Golem-obsessed Stalker and Step Trigger. Since I was dealt damage by Golem and Damien gained 10 life this turn, I lose an additional 10 life. Carlos moves to combat and swings with exactly 8 damage to destroy the forces of darkness for good. Dustin pays 3 for a Commander Sphere. He then taps it to float a blue mana, and then sacrifices it to draw a card. Dustin then casts a Marshal's Anthem, kicking it twice, getting back his Bastion Protector and his Gilran Dunedain Protector before passing the turn. Damien starts his turn by casting a Mirkwood Bats. He follows this up by casting Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit, putting a 1/1 counter on Sam, and creating a food token, which causes everyone to lose 1 life from the Mirkwood Bats. Damien moves to combat, generating a food token from Sam and causing everyone to lose 1 life from Mirkwood Bats. Before attackers are declared, Carlos casts a Trap the Trespassers. All of the votes are revealed in a Hornet Queen, as well as 2 of the Treefolk tokens are tapped and stun counters are put on them. Damien moves to combat and swings everything at Carlos, and the elves are destroyed. Damien sacrifices 2 food tokens, and Dustin takes 2 from the Mirkwood Bats, and Damien goes up 6. He moves to his end step and draws a card from the Gaffer before Dustin starts his turn. Dustin starts his turn by casting a Banishing Light, targeting the Mirkwood Bats. Dustin then casts a Baragond of the Guard, and then uses the dash ability of his Flame Rush Rider. He moves to combat and attacks with everything he has available, creating a token of Bastion Protector from his Flame Rush Rider. Damien takes 20 damage from the armies of man, and then Dustin concedes defeat to the victorious Hobbits of the Shire. And as fate would have it, Damien claims victory with his horde of hungry hobbits. I speak for all of us when I say we absolutely loved these decks. Between the flavor, the mechanics, the artwork, there is so much to love, especially if you're a massive Lord of the Rings fan like I am. And if you have a little impulse control, you'll probably buy all 4 of the decks like I did. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what Lord of the Rings Precon you are most excited to get your hands on when they drop on June 23rd. Thank you all so much for watching.